From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, Dr. Jason here, Dental Lighthouse Podcast. It is Monday morning around 8 o'clock, and I got some things to share with you. I had a great weekend. I turned 50 last week, and my family celebrated this past Saturday night. We invited a bunch of friends over for like a 50th birthday party / Friendsgiving, so tons of food. I was overserved. Someone overserved me bourbon. Started off with Coors Light, then it turned into bourbon. And the culprit was probably myself, but those nights are few and far between for me nowadays. They used to be a regular occurrence, but now they're few and far between. So I'll give myself some grace. And it was just a great night. Lots of fun memories, lots of laughing. Just great to connect with people that I just love very, very dearly. So that was my weekend. Little housekeeping. I think we're like a week away from doing the test run on the Better Than Yesterday 4 Futures Challenge. And I actually spent some time yesterday as I was recovering from Saturday, yesterday being Sunday, kind of brainstorming what I'm going to do for my 4 futures: mind, meaning, muscle, and money. And don't fall into the trap of picking things that you already have developed as habits, right? So I strength train 4 days a week, and I get at least 10,000 steps every single day. So using something like get 10,000 steps every day, like that's not going to stretch you. That's not going to push you. That's not going to help you develop new habits. So don't fall into that trap. What I'm focusing on are things that I have had a history of doing with some regularity, but maybe I've gotten off track. For example, I used to, for years, read The Daily Stoic and The Daily Dad on a regular basis. And over the last maybe 6 months or so, I got out of that habit. So that's going to be one of mine. This morning, I started to fool around with maybe giving up coffee for the 7 days and seeing if I can do that. And in its place, and I'm not crazy, so don't think that this is ridiculous. Well, it is ridiculous, but don't judge me. Thinking about substituting cold plunge for it. Now I have a cold plunge and I use it 3 to 4 times a week. I usually get in the sauna for 25 minutes and get really, really hot and then jump in the cold plunge. It's just more tolerable for me that way. But what if I woke up and literally within the first minute of me waking up, jumped in the cold plunge? That would do 2 things. It would be unbelievably difficult, but it would teach me lots on grit and perseverance. But secondly, at least I'm hoping, it would replace my need for coffee in the morning. So I think I'm going to try that. And maybe that's going to be one of the 4 futures that I use for, I guess that would have to be muscle. That would probably be in the muscle group because it's obviously healthy for me. I would think giving up coffee and waking up via cold plunge is healthy for me. So in the muscle quadrant, but it's also probably in the mind quadrant where it's teaching me grit, perseverance, get a huge dopamine rush, tons of adrenaline without the stress hormones, stuff like that. So anyways, if something you're interested in, go to thedentallighthouse.com. Right on our homepage, we have a place where you can enter your name and email, and we'll send you our packet. And just try it out with us. And we've created a Facebook. We'll have a Dental Lighthouse Facebook page. So we have a pinned message on there where we're just going to try to keep the conversation going about the 4 Futures Better Than Yesterday Challenge. So support each other, answer questions, stuff like that. So again, 7 days starting Monday. And those 7 days are just a chance for you to kind of work some stuff out, figure some stuff out, make mistakes, tweak things, get better. And then starting in January, hopefully we have some confidence. We have the systems in place where we might be able to do it for 30 days, 30 straight days. So let's see. Let's see how it goes. Um, as far as today, I really wanted to talk to you about, yep, drum roll, please, checklists. Now, don't before you turn this recording off and you're like, oh, checklists, like I'm hoping to be inspired, Jason. I don't want to hear about checklists. The reason that this is on my mind and on my heart is I had a check-in with one of our group coaching clients on Friday. Super great dude out of California, just killing it. One office, but brought on an associate, brought on a kick-ass office manager I think he's doing 250 a month. Anyways, his question to me was, Jason, over the last 6 months or so, we've been hitting our numbers every month and things are really, really going well. And do I need to be overly worried about having checklists filled out if we're continually hitting our numbers? Super good question. And I think the genesis of the question is a lot of the coaching clients that I have, we've been talking about this philosophy of, is this a hill I'm going to die on? And I'm just trying to teach the guys and gals that I work with, both office managers and dentists and other leaders in the offices, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. Like there's shades of gray. It doesn't always have to be black and white. It doesn't always have to be yes and no. Um, so this concept of, is this a hill I'm going to die on? For example, if someone's not meeting an expectation, depending on the exact situation, that may be a hill I'm going to die on, or it may not be a hill I'm going to die on. And I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole talking about that. But what he was basically asking me is, Jason, the checklists are not getting done to the level that we expect. Is this a hill I should die on? And he's asking the question because they're meeting their numbers. And by meeting their numbers, we're typically talking about a revenue or production goal, right? So the short answer to that question is yes, this is a hill I'm going to die on. And like this guy does, he said, well, can you explain why? Love that question. So I was in my truck driving with him and I was like just trying to come up with some scenarios that would force me to insist on checklists being filled out, even though we're hitting your numbers. So I come up with a couple of examples that I want to share with you. And I feel that these examples could be reasons why you would die on that checklist hill. Right. We all know why checklists are so important. In the servant leadership course, we've talked about open loops and we've talked about having all of these ideas in your head and how it can just be so time and energy consuming when, what you need to do is not written down, when they're kind of floating around in your head and you have all these open loops. So that's one of the reasons that I live by checklists, both personally and professionally. And, we've talked about the classic book, Checklist Manifesto, where they unpack how important checklists are for airline pilots and for orthopedic surgeons, and all of the research to suggest how everything is better when a checklist is a meaningful checklist and it's filled out correctly. So in my world, we have a number of checklists, and I'm going to use our flagship office as an example here, but the office does extremely well and we're consistently hitting our numbers, right? But we do have a few doctors that struggle to fill out our doctor end of day checklist. And it's not every day, but from time to time, they will struggle to fill it out. Now, I don't have the doctor end of day checklist in front of me, but I'll give you a couple things that are on there. One is to, on Open Dental, pull up their adjusted production report and make sure it's accurate, right? Uh, Sometimes I can get a little pushback on that, but when you ultimately explain to them that, your paycheck is ultimately based on the accuracy of this report, so make sure it's accurate, they tend to get in line. Another thing on that checklist is celebrate someone in your pod using a core value, stuff like that. One of them that I'm gonna spend some time kind of talking about right now is um, my dogs is verify that all the prescriptions that were entered for your patients today have been approved electronically, right? And this is a super big one, right? Because throughout the day, we're approving scripts for antibiotics, for infections or upcoming implant surgeries, sedation meds for upcoming sedation appointments, pain medication, you name it, right? You know what you're prescribing. So sometimes the docs will not fill out the end of day checklist and they'll just leave, right? Because they got maybe kids events to get to, or maybe there's a social event, and they're not thinking about the importance of the end of day checklist. So they just finish up with their last patient and they're out the door. But what happens when the checklist isn't filled out and a situation presents itself like prescriptions were sent in for patients, but the doctor didn't approve them? We had this situation happen last week where patient went to the pharmacy, stood in line for a half hour, only to get to the front, ask for their amoxicillin prescription, and the pharmacist say, "I don't have an amoxicillin prescription for you," right? Now, what happens next? Well, it depends on the patient, but in this particular situation, the patient went berserk. She got online, left us a 1-star review. She, I'm assuming, told probably 10 people how incompetent and inefficient our office is. And probably most importantly, the medication that she needed to get in her system was not allowed to get in her system right away. Now, will that situation negatively affect adjusted production for the month? Probably not. Are we still hitting our numbers, even though that situation occurred? Yes. But that's one of the reasons that I am going to die on this hill, because, we talk about winning all the time, and winning is definitely hitting your numbers, hitting your goals. But winning is also, depending on your particular situation, creating the best patient experience that you can possibly create. And having someone go to the pharmacy, stand in line for a half hour, only to get to the front of the line and then not have the prescriptions ready is not creating the best level of customer service ever. And that situation manifested itself because someone didn't fill out their end of day checklist. So it's a simple example, but I really think it speaks volumes to why this is a hill I'm going to die on, right? Another example could be, I've shared with you guys, again, going back to my flagship where there's, let's say 10 assistants, 8 to 10 assistants working at any given time and any given day. We try to have end of day checklists for each of the assistants where there's an order to how they do things. And when the end of the day comes, we're trying to create an emphasis of making sure that assistants check on their team members before they take care of their own individual responsibilities. So, for example, if an assistant is done at the end of the day at 4 o'clock, instead of going to their room and refilling their supplies in the room, doing their notes, breaking down their room, getting it ready for the first appointment tomorrow morning, all important things. But instead of doing that first, we want the assistants to make sure that the other assistants aren't drowning. And by drowning, we mean running behind, or there's a patient still in the waiting room that needs to be seen, or sterilization is way backed up. So we want our assistants to look at these types of things first before they start to worry about their individualized needs. And then we ultimately want the assistant to give their checklist to the team lead before they leave for the day. Simple stuff, right? So if there's situations where that doesn't happen, what are the consequences of that? What manifests from that? And again, you guys have heard me say this before. When I say consequences, I don't mean, we're going to suspend you, we're going to fire you, you're not eligible for bonus. I mean, when one of the assistants chooses not to go through the checklist in this order and kind of does her own thing, what happens? Well, it's very clear what happens. Sterilization is really backed up, and there's no one there to help with it, but the assistant is in her room doing her notes, right? So, what do you think that action communicates to the rest of the team about teamwork? It it does not communicate teamwork very well, right? So that's an issue. When that assistant chooses to restock their room instead of walking up and down the hallway one time to make sure that all the patients are brought back and that there's an assistant not really running behind, um, and that the assistant doesn't do that, what do you think that does to the morale of the assistant team? It kills it, right? So again, if the assistant is doing these things, right, not going through the checklist and not going through the checklist in the right order, is that going to affect adjusted production for the day or for the month? And probably not. Are we still going to hit our numbers? Yeah, probably going to still hit our numbers. But there's a crack that's developing with morale and with culture. Just like in the doctor example I gave, there's now a crack that's developing within the patient-centric customer service expectations or aspect of what we're trying to do. And that crack is not going to manifest itself and blow up in the next day or two, just like a very, very small crack in your windshield isn't going to prevent you from driving, um, down the highway. But if the crack is left to continue to propagate, or if you don't deal with that crack, if you don't deal with the issue of certain people not filling out their checklist on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, that crack is going to propagate. And it's eventually going to get to a point where you have a situation where someone quits because they don't feel supported by the rest of their team, or a patient leaves the practice because they feel disrespected, or the level of customer service that they're uh, consistently expecting from us falters. So this is why, there's two simple examples, and I could give you a dozen more. This is why checklists are, in fact, a hill that I'm going to die on. And even though a majority of people think it's mundane, it's stupid, I feel like I'm being micromanaged. I get it. I understand that argument. I really do. But if they're good enough for orthopedic surgeons and they're good enough for airline pilots and they're good enough for me, this morning's a great example. I just started a new workout cycle today, and I wrote it all out and I put checklist boxes next to everything. And if I didn't go back and continually reference this new workout, I would have skipped things. I would have I forgot I was going to do this and not that. Like, why would I want to burden myself with keeping these open loops in my head and thinking, don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this, when I can just simply write it down and just go to the list whenever I need to and be like, oh, okay, that's right. This is next. And then this is next. And then this is next. It just doesn't make any sense to me, the why you would consume mental energy when you could simply write it down and have complete satisfaction in knowing that this is what needs to be done. I'm going to slowly but surely check each one of these boxes. And when I'm done, the loops are closed. I can leave for the day and know that I am 100% done. I'm not going to be thinking about it at dinner with my family. I'm not going to wake up in the middle of the night and being like, oh shit, did I approve those antibiotics for that patient? Like, all of that stuff goes away. So I can understand when certain team members push back a little bit on checklists. That's fair, no judgment. But I think it's our job as leaders to make sure that we're communicating why we feel it's important and the consequences that can occur, like the two that I just shared with you, three if you count my strength training this morning, when it doesn't occur. And again, I don't need people to love checklists, although I do find that as they get more and more acclimated and more experience with it, they do tend to fall in love with it because it's just such an easy way to get your stuff done. But I don't need people to love it. I need people to understand why we do it and how it ultimately benefits not only them, but the entire organization in the future. So that's it for today, guys. Real quick one. But again, a good conversation Friday with just a stud dentist out from California, San Francisco Bay Area. And he's killing it. But this was a pain point for him, and he wanted to talk it through. And I think my messaging resonated with him. And I just thought it was an important enough conversation to bring it up today. So love you guys. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Go to thedentallighthouse.com. Join us for this 4 Futures Challenge, even if it's for the 7-day trial. The trial run for 7 days starting December 15th. Give it a try. Like what do you have to lose? That's what I want. What I want you to ask yourself. What do you have to lose with just giving it 7 days? I can assure you that if you make an effort, you'll end up on the other end of that week better than when you started. You'll be better than yesterday. Hence the name of the challenge. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.